would like to support the channel. Also, you can do it by way of Patreon, Anchor, the clothing store, and also the shoe shop that is listed in the comment description below. And again, thank you to any and all of you guys who have been here to support this channel during the 2+ year period. I wouldn't be able to do what I do every single day without you.
When we use the word forgivable or forgiveness, that's for Chris Rock to deal with. This is his call. He could have had the man arrested that night and insisted to the LAPD that that not be the case. Could have pressed charges thereafter and insisted on not doing that to Will Smith, not making the incident any bigger than what it was. Yes, he came out with his own flick for next fix, got about $20 million for it. After tax, he probably walked home with about $6 million. But Chris Rock is damaged. You might see him at Knicks games. Yeah, you might see him still going about the business of performing on tour or doing his job or handling his business. Chris Rock will never get over that. Ever. Will Smith apologized. I'm not saying he even has to apologize. I'm saying that while I watch him and Martin Lawrence promoting this movie, and I'm quite sure the reason he hasn't addressed it is because the studios don't want him to, and there's an obligation that you have with them, all fair, I get it. But somewhere along the way, he has to sit down and talk to the black community. You can see all the white people around Will Smith all you want to. Black folks have loved and revered this man for decades. He was the closest thing to perfection, as his friend Charlie Mack once told me, for decades. Everybody makes a mistake. This is not hatred. I love Will Smith still. But you gotta have a conversation as to why you did that. And when you're apologizing, and when you're getting emotional, and when you're thinking about all the lives or the people that you've affected, it's primarily us as black people who have loved and supported you and watched you go on an international stage and slap one of us in the face. I'm not gonna say what you did to the comedic community. Hell, Jim Carrey spoke about that along with various others. We know you wouldn't have smacked Ricky Gervais, Bill Maher, Bill Burr, or a host of others. We know you wouldn't have done that. No apology necessary. I'm just saying, a lot of folks ain't get over that. A lot of folks find it hard to just go to the movies to watch you. I'm one of those people. And I never missed a Will Smith movie. Lost your way one night. We need to hear that from you. I'm sorry. That's what I need to do before I look forward to seeing your movies again, more than seeing a sit down.
Now, that was a very nice speech, and we're going to get into that in a second with Stephen, right? So with the image that you see in front of you is Chris Rock sitting down with people that don't look nothing like him. And amongst that situation, again, it was a long show, but amongst one of the situations or the things that they talked about was the fact that the use of the N-word. And I found it hilarious that this is the conversation that Chris Rock wanted to have with the guest that he specifically had. The only person on that show that did not use it at any point in time, even though he could have, because Chris Rock was there and he was allowing it to just be there because it was just ha 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 funny, right, was Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld stated that he never saw the funny, nor does he seek it, nor is he trying to understand it, nor is he trying to use it, right? But the other comedians, Gervais and CK, they both used it. And it was supposed to be this ha ha he he thing. And the funniest thing is, when Jerry was looking at Chris Rock at a point in time when the word was getting used, Jerry had the look of, you're seriously letting them do this? This is what we're doing? And it's crazy that somebody else who doesn't look like Chris Rock had to, in a sense, give him that look. And it was as if Chris Rock didn't know what the look meant. He just carried on and just allowed it to happen because it was ha ha he funny. This was the thing. It was going to bring in ratings and all this other type of stuff. And then he was trying to stick up for CK, was like, oh, this guy, he uses it, all the time. It's like da da da, in his bits and whatnot or whatever. And I'm like, so you're basically, as the one black guy that everybody in proximity is friends with, you're allowing this to sit up there and happen. Right? And then you had Gervais on the side who wasn't saying anything, but you could tell he was itching just to sit up there and get it out of there. And then he supposedly had a oops moment when he said it. And then he was like, oh, I guess I did, actually use it. Right? As a, oh, ha ha, he type of thing. And I'm like, no, that's just something that you just wanted to say. Why not just say it instead of trying to hide behind it, even though you're a comedian, right? But you're still trying to hide. And I'm like, it's crazy. But yet, when I look at this, and I've heard this a multitude of times, I never, at least for me, I don't happen to remember Stephen A. telling Chris Rock, what you did that day with all of those comedians who look nothing like you, who are not from our community, what you did that day not just hurt you, but it hurt all of us. And it specifically hurt me. And Chris Rock is a great comedian. There's never been a time that I didn't miss a Chris Rock stand-up. There's not a time that I didn't watch a Chris Rock show or anything that he produced. I support Chris Rock. He's a brilliant comedian, brilliant writer. But that day, you did something that hurt. And because you did that, that's something that a lot of us can never get over, especially me. So I would love to hear from you that day that you just lost your way, that you just didn't know what happened, know what was going on. But we all know that's not what Stephen A. is going to do. And there's been a multitude of incidences of which you've had football players that are not black that were caught up in a lot of things. And magically, it was like, certain people out there didn't want to cover that. They didn't want to go at length. They didn't want to go in depth. They didn't want to try to condemn. And I found that a little bit interesting. But I guess, like you said, with Will Smith, it's out of fear because you have contractual obligations that you have to abide by in order to keep your job, in order to get, a certain type of money, and in order not to, anger a certain demographic of which loves you very much, which fits the bills when it deals with any and all of these sports shows, which feed money directly to the advertisers in between, when you have commercial breaks. But yet, you don't see the black community trying to tell you that you need to apologize to us. You don't see the black community trying to tell Chris Rock, hey, what you did with Jerry and CK and Gervais, it's like, yo, we need you to sit up there and apologize. We're not asking for that. We just move on. It's like, all right, whatever. We're going to take note. We're not going to ask for an apology. We will take note, and it will be written down, and we will continue on. But for whatever reason, Stephen A. was like, hey, I'm just going to take this time to just go out on a full-out on attack on Will Smith. I'm like, isn't this about like 2 years after the incident took place or something like that? 1 or 2 years or something like that. Nobody was even talking about this. Nobody was even bringing it up. Even mainstream media was done talking about it. It was not on their breath at all. They were focused on everything else. And then here comes Stephen A. Smith to bring this right back up. And I'm like, wow, it's amazing how you decided that you want to talk about Will Smith right when Bad Boys is going to launch. So you had 2 years or whatever it was, whatever the time frame was. You had all of this time to specifically try to get at or to talk to Will Smith or to have these conversations, but you didn't want to do that. You wanted to wait up until Bad Boys dropped. You want to wait up until something where he's in the spotlight again in order to dim that light. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm pretty sure Stephen A. Smith actually has phone numbers of celebrities. I'm pretty sure he could actually reach out because of the high profile character that he is. How many years and decades he's been around. I'm pretty sure Stephen A. Smith would not have a problem reaching out to actors. I'm pretty sure, because he got connections to NBA players. So, it could be a trade for a trade. But yet, that's not what Stephen A. Smith wanted to do. He didn't want to specifically, personally get into contact with Will Smith and have this conversation. He wanted to wait up until Bad Boys came out, when Will Smith was in the spotlight again, when everything was pretty much past with the Jada thing, with the Chris Rock thing, and everything else. He wanted to wait for this one specific moment just to say this, when he had all the time in the world to bring this up. And then he has the nerve to, within his speech, he wants to try to call Will Smith afraid. He wants to try to point out the fact that, oh, well, we know that you wouldn't have done this to any Caucasian comedians. Stephen A., you've been disrespected a multitude of times, but yet you ain't do nothing to nobody. You sit there a lot of times and allow black players to get disrespected by all other types of individuals, to talk about them sideways, and you just sit there. But yet, the moment in time that you start having these white athletes get talked about, y'all only move it a little bit. Y'all not going to deep dive into their personal life or their criminal history, their criminal past. You're not going to say that they should be suspended or anything. You're just going to chalk it up to something else. But the moment in time that supernaturally it's another black man, like what you tried to say with Will Smith, was like, well, we know that you're not going to do this to anybody Caucasian, but you're going to make sure to do this to Chris Rock. Just like we know that you're not going to demonize anybody white, you're going to make sure to demonize and allow other people to demonize black players. Amazing, isn't it? It's crazy. You do the exact same thing that you're trying to say that Will Smith is sitting up here doing, but the only difference is you're the one out here shucking and jiving for the white folks that watch your show every single day. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this video and everything that I stated in the comment description below. And as always, peace, love, and stay tuned for the next video.